Hi, this is Jerome. I am at one of my favorite places in the world. This is the top of Roan Mountain, which is really a series of mountains. It's not one mountain, but it's really unique in the Appalachian chain because it's got these grassy balds that are really unusual for this area. So you can see, of course, it's winter time, so it's dead grass, dormant grass, but that's the Tennessee side of the mountains, and then it just kind of keeps moving right on around, and they're all just about 1,000 acres of grassy openness here, and then this is the North Carolina side. It's a little windy up here today, but it does look so different here in the wintertime than in the springtime. I come up in the springtime often, but the wintertime, for all of its bleakness, really does give a whole different experience and view of the mountain, any mountain. It exposes the contours of the land, and you can really see the way the light plays on the grass and all the textures show up. It's really kind of special. And so I'm going to jump to a different topic for a second. This will tie in a moment, but we're getting into the Advent season. The season as we approach the holidays. Advent, of course, means coming. It means that time in our life journey where we're longing for something. We have a desire for something, and that something is God. And of course, it's the paradox of Advent is that God is here, but God is coming. And that's always true. God is always here and God is always coming. But it invites us to get in touch with what it is we're really longing for, what it is that we most want. You know, there's that familiar story in Luke 18 about the blind beggar who is hanging out near Jericho when Jesus and his entourage passes by, and he wants to know what all the stir is about, what all the noise is about, who's there, and they tell him it's Jesus, and he goes nuts, and he's like, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And the crowd's trying to shut him up, and he will not be shut up. And Jesus invites him over and asks really kind of one of the strangest questions in the Bible, if you ask me, and is, what do you want me to do for you? I mean, if there were ever a more self-evident answer to a question, it would seem to me to be that one. The guy's blind, he wants to see. And of course, he does want to see. And Jesus makes it possible for him to see. But I wonder, even in that story, if there's not more going on. And if Jesus isn't inviting this man who's been without sight all of his life to really get in touch with the deeper parts of his heart, the deeper things that he wants. And the implication is, I can give you what you want, what you most want, what your heart really craves the most. I am that. I am he, And so I'm wondering today what your desires are, and if you've gotten in touch with the deeper parts of your own heart in this holiday season. It's a special season, it's a fun season, it's a noisy season. There's a lot going on, a lot of beauty and activity and fun, but what is it that your heart really most wants? Maybe you're just wanting to get a project complete. Maybe you're wanting to land a client that you've been working on for weeks or months. Maybe you just want a break. Those are all legitimate desires, needs, but what's underneath those? What's the deeper cry of your heart? I've been asking myself that today. I really have. I've been wondering, what is in my heart? I have these kind of these surface desires I have. By the end of the year, there are 3 projects I'm trying to finish. I'm finishing writing a book. I am finishing building a wine cellar in my basement. And I am doing some business planning for the new year, and all three of these activities has me so jazzed. I get up in the mornings like, which one do I get to start first? I want to do them all. And there's been a lot of creative energy around that, and I love that, and that's awesome. But what's the desire underneath those desires? So I was thinking about that, and what came to my mind was Kelly and I moved up to the mountains in North Carolina a little over a year ago, and we're still just meeting people, just beginning to meet people. And so what's my desire there? I guess I'd really like to have some friends, some people I can do life with and share life with in this town, in this area. That's a desire of my heart. But then I wondered, well, what's even underneath that? Is there even another desire underneath that? And I think there is. It took me a little while to kind of peel some of the layers off, but this is what came to me, was that, let me give you a little bit of context. Many of the spiritual guides throughout history have talked about the spiritual life in terms of two dynamics: contemplation and action. Action and contemplation. That these are the kind of those two halves of the life of Godward men and women. Of course, our culture is all about the action side, and there's very little space or value generally attached to the more contemplative side of life. Well, these last few years for me have been about going deep on the contemplative side, and it's been so rich, it's been so healing and formative, and I just felt my roots going down. But I also feel like God's talking to me about this new year. This is a year of action. This is a year to lean into a side of kind of going full out, running hard. But I'm a little intimidated by it because I haven't done action real well in the past. When I've certainly had active seasons of my life, and they tend to be times where I just get so much onto the gerbil wheel that my rootedness is lost and my groundedness is lost, and I just kind of get sucked into the black hole of activity. And I don't want that, So what's the desire there? I want to figure out how to live the active life, full bore, wide open, and still have the rootedness of that contemplative anchor for my soul that allows me to really do both sides of the spiritual life. And the spiritual life is life. I don't just mean like your devotional life, I mean life. To really be able to do that well, that's a pretty deep-hearted desire of mine for this new year. So again, I just ask you, what's the desire that's in your heart? And I hope that in this holiday time you can, in the midst of all the fun activities, that you can find a little space to look at the contours of your life, to let kind of the leaves and the color fall away, the gloss and perhaps some of the distraction, to be able to see what's really there. In the wintertime you can really see what's here and what is there in your own soul. What are the contours of your life? What is the light and the interplay of that upon your soul? What are the deeper desires of your heart? What are the textures that you can see and taste and touch and experience of your life that God wants to speak to? Because that's the cool thing about desire, and I think this is what Jesus was really getting at with the blind beggar, that when we get in touch with the real desires of our heart, then we're getting in touch with God, like God's desire for you. And that's not something that can be manipulated, like, well, boy, if I wanted enough, that must be what God wants for me. That's not quite like that. But it's more like when we can get honest and real about the deep longings of our heart. God is in that. When we can get below the surface and strip away all the fluff, There's something of God that is calling to us in that space and in those moments. And that's pretty exciting. I couldn't be more thrilled about finishing up this year and my anticipations for the next year, because I really feel like God's just invited me into partnership with Him, and God's inviting you into that same kind of partnering with God, where it's not just asking God to bless what you're doing. I mean, that's a start, but what if you could be doing what God's doing and be invited into God's activity for you and for the year that you're heading into? So that's just some thoughts to leave with you. Enjoy your day. I'm going to keep enjoying mine up here on Roan Mountain. Take care.